As someone who loves animation, I'm always fiending for shows or movies made for an adult audience. And no, I don't mean that type of adult animation. I mean stuff like Black Lagoon or Afro Samurai. And yeah, recently we've gotten some great shows like Invincible, Castlevania, and Smiling Friends. But after finally watching Blue Eye Samurai, I think I found what I was looking for, and it absolutely blew away my expectations. I gotta say, this is probably my favorite show that I've watched so far this year. So in this video, I'm gonna tell y'all why this show is awesome. If you haven't seen the show, I'm about to spoil a lot of it. So here's your heads up. First, let me explain what the story is about. So in the Edo period of Japan, they closed their borders, so foreigners are not allowed in. It's illegal. But 4 powerful white men secretly arrived in Japan and started fucking. One of them had weak pullout game and impregnated a Japanese woman, making a mixed breed child. This is where our main character, Mizu, comes into the picture. Mixed race people are considered less than human, monsters, and throughout her childhood she was bullied, outcasted by others. Her mother constantly reminded her that she had to stay hidden and hide her face. Also the fact that she was a girl, so her life was a living hell. After her mother dies in a fire, Mizu comes across a blind swordsmith who takes her in and pretty much raises her, teaching her how to make swords and stuff. When Mizu gets old enough and does enough training, she sets out on her path of revenge to kill her father, the man who brought her into this world. I mean, wow, that is an interesting setup for a story. A very violent story. Blue Eye Samurai is not for children. Do not be watching this with your kids. There's tons of adult themes, and this show does not hold back. They're very unapologetic when showing certain stuff like violence. There was times when I had to look away from the screen because it was so gruesome, like people getting their teeth ripped out, bones broken through their skin, and lots of blood and guts everywhere. It's pretty extreme in a good way. Another thing I was surprised to see is that they just be fucking. Like there's multiple sex scenes, and a lot of glizzy with no bun, like dick everywhere. It really made me feel like I was watching an HBO show. You'll be watching one scene, and boom, out of nowhere, sausage right in your face. That shit is deadly.
Oh shit, what the fuck? What? Fucking glizzy bit me, yo!
Bit you?
Besides all of that, I'm absolutely in love with how the show looks. The 3D animation is gorgeous and just nice to look at. The show being in animation allows for some great shots that would be hard to pull off in a live action movie or show, so we get to see some fantastic camera work. There's a video on YouTube, Blue Eye Samurai Behind the Animation, where the creators of the show go into detail about the art direction of the show. They basically wanted it to look like a moving painting. I say that they accomplished that, and the team did a ton of research to make sure the culture was represented accurately. It's so well done. It even looks 2D at some points. Nothing ever looked bad or janky to me, and that goes for the fights too. The choreography is crazy. In that behind the scenes video, it's shown that every fight was actually filmed first for reference, and they had professional stunt choreographers to help as well, coming up with some unique fights. Months ago, before I even watched the show, I saw a scene on YouTube where Mizu bounced the sheath of her sword off the ground and hit a man in the face with it. I was like, what the fuck? That was awesome. Mizu kicks some real ass in this show. There's a lot of super creative moments like this, and the fights always have me on the edge of my seat. It's great seeing Mizu use every option she has to win a fight. One of my favorite fight scenes is when she takes on like 20 soldiers. It reminded me of that hallway scene in Old Boy, just full rampage mode. So yeah, it's always cool to see the process of what makes something so great. Like the music, there's some excellent background music and battle themes. Everything fits into place. Even when they started playing For Whom the Bell Tolls by Metallica, it's out of place for the time period, but it makes sense that it plays right before Mizu is about to infiltrate the castle, literally going into battle. Next, I want to talk about the characters. Let's start off with Mizu. I think she's an awesome written character. We know that this world is against her, and that's why she's rightfully pissed off at it and has trust issues. And her determination for revenge has her locked in. She comes off as serious most of the time, without empathy, mostly because she has to. But we also see flashbacks when she was younger, showing her in a different way. The greatest example being in episode 5, where we get to see the last thing that pushed her to where she's at in the beginning of the show. This is back when she still had a little bit of trust in others, and we see her getting beat up and stabbed because of it. And in her daze, she finds her mother, who actually isn't dead. She's like, oh my god, I was partially doing this to avenge you. How did you survive? And she's like, I'm smoking that good opium. You trying to hit this shit? Later, she's like, we're going to live with your new husband. Mizu's like, what? I'm not doing that. And then they end up going to the mountains and living with him anyways. Her mom explains that her new husband was a samurai for the Lord and lost his position, so he was pretty much outcasted. For a while, we get to see Mizu living a semi-normal life, which was nice to see. At first, the husband is distant and doesn't really like Mizu. But after a while, they begin to warm up to each other, and they become pretty close. She starts to open up to him, revealing her terrible life up until this point. And he's like, you're pretty cool. You're not as bad as I thought. I want to know everything about you. So the next day, they go outside and spar, and she whoops this nigga's ass. And bro is a sore loser. He was so mad that he went into town and snitched on her.
What the fuck?
A bunch of soldiers come to kill her, and you guessed it, she murders every single last one of them. The husband comes back and starts lying. He's like, I didn't rat you out, it was your mother. She sold you out so she can get some more fent. And the mom is like, no, you try to get your position back by telling on her. The two start fighting, the husband kills the mom, and he's like, Mizu, I promise it wasn't me. But Mizu is so over it at this point. She's like, bro, fuck you. And she kills him. This is what pushes her back on her path, and you can really see how messed up her mind is. And she knows now that in order to succeed, she can't trust anyone else. Like nothing good will come from trusting others, because even her own mother and husband don't even give a damn about her. So who else will in a world that already despises her? This was a fantastic episode that shows exactly what can make somebody like this. You're told your whole life that you're a monster, and eventually you become one, hell-bent on revenge. Someone who's gonna kill whoever they need to obtain it. In the show, we see Mizu doing a ton of messed up things, hurting a lot of people, some pretty disturbing stuff that even surprises her. Like when she had to kill that deaf mute girl, afterwards she was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? But there's no room for empathy when you're on a path of revenge, because this moment of self-reflection makes Mizu spare this kid's life, which results in her putting herself and a ton of people in danger. So in the future, she kills this kid soldier to not leave any loose ends. It's a constant battle back and forth between empathy and evil actions. She goes through a lot of terrible things in this show, but also some good stuff too. Mizu makes friends with a lot of good people, eventually realizing what got her so far on this journey. It's the friends we made along the way.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
But nah, for real, she realizes the people she met made her a better person, and they play a big role into helping her achieve her goal. Mizu was able to recognize her flaws and improve. Nowadays, we see a lot of strong female characters that suck, and that's because the writing is shit. But with Mizu, they did it right. They were cooking. Mizu is strong, but not because the writers are trying to prove a point. It's because she struggles. She's been beaten down constantly throughout her life, mentally scarred, betrayed, and hurt, and she still continues on. She's been through it and worked her ass off training every day to be stronger and survive in a world where she literally has no power at all. We see her getting fucked up a lot, getting overpowered and thrown around, having to use multiple methods to win battles. This shit is realistic to a degree, and I think this is what makes her a strong character. She still is a terrible person though, but deep down inside, she still has that kind person inside of her, and this is where Ringo comes in, and she starts to warm up to others. I think it was also a little bit easier for her because she sees that he's also looked at differently from most, you know, not having hands. So that's something to relate on. Ringo is a positive, talkative dude.
Buford, you listening?
But every serious protagonist needs their talkative counterpart to lighten up the mood, like Afro Samurai and Ninja, Guts and Puck, and D and his hand. Someone to keep them in check as well, and be useful at times. He's a little annoying, but I like his enthusiasm, and he just wants to be great at something, so that's cool. Blue Eye Samurai has mostly great characters, like Taigen, a confident guy who gets humbled in a fight by Mizu, and he's like, nah, I can't go out like that. So he follows Mizu around and is like, when I get the chance, we're gonna have a rematch, and I'm gonna reclaim my honor. But throughout the show, he starts to warm up to Mizu, and he's like, this guy ain't so bad. Taigen definitely became one of my favorite characters, and he's loyal. Bro got captured, tortured, and he still didn't snitch.
My nigga.
Next we got Akemi. I don't really like her that much, if I'm being honest, but they did a good job of showing how privileged she is. She spends most of the show complaining about her situation, which is understandable. I wouldn't want to be forced to marry some random person I don't know. The entire show, she's constantly told that this is her best option. It's either this, or you're gonna be slinging your cooch for randoms all day. Now which one seems better to you? There's a scene near the end of the show where one of the brothel women is like, stop running away from your problems and use your situation to your advantage. And I feel like everyone watching collectively was like, thank you. And Akemi was like, oh, I never thought of that. I'm curious to see what they do with her character in the future. Let's talk about the main antagonist Fowler and his side bitch, Fowler Shindo. I hate this man. And I mean that in the nicest way possible, because his voice actor, Randall Park, is such a good actor. He plays this character perfectly. I just despise him every time he's on screen. But our main antagonist, Fowler, is a terrifying menace, a man who hates the thought of not having control over his life, and we learn this when he explains his terrifying past. As a kid, he lived through the real 9 Years' War of Tyrone's Rebellion. Fowler and his sister were starving to death, forced to eat rats to survive. Once the rats ran out, he kept his sister alive on his own blood for 2 weeks. Then, when she died, he cut out her kidneys and ate them. That's crazy, right? And this is the aftermath. A power-hungry control freak. So now he pretty much does whatever he wants, to an extent, since white men aren't allowed in Japan. So he's been hiding for 10 years with permission from the shogun, waiting and preparing for the moment he can take down the shogun. And that long 10 years had him bored as hell. He was sitting around painting live leak images. Normal sex doesn't even do it for him anymore. He's at the brothels getting his salad tossed.
Hell no, man. What the fuck?
He's super violent too. Once he got news that Mizu was still after his head top, he absolutely destroyed this dude's face like it was nothing. Fowler does have some power though, and he does probably what any white man of that time in his position would do, try to take over the land. He sneaks a bunch of guns into Japan in a very unique way, and he starts a massacre. I think he's the perfect villain for this story, and I can't wait to see what the other men Mizu was hunting are like. So, I think I went over everything I liked about Blue Eye Samurai. I feel like they really knocked it out the park. Not even for a second did I think the show was woke or anything, just good storytelling. Great action and beautiful animation. That's what I like to see. I absolutely love this show and I can't wait for the next season. If you haven't seen it, I think you should still watch it, even though I just spoiled like all of it. Alright, that's the end of the video. I appreciate all of the love. New videos on the way as usual. I'll see y'all soon.